I'll be honest with you. There are mornings when I wake up, pour my coffee, look out at this lake, and still can't believe how far one neighbor's greed can push a person. You ever have one of those moments where you wonder if the universe is messing with you just to see if you'll snap? That's where my story starts, right there at the edge of my dock, mug in hand, staring at the fog and thinking, no way this is really happening. See, this isn't just any story about property lines. It's about what happens when someone decides your family's legacy is just a stepping stone for their next scheme, and you're the only thing standing in the way. I'm not some fancy lawyer or real estate tycoon. I'm an electrician. My hands know more about wires and switches than legal jargon. But you don't need a law degree to recognize a bully when you see one. Let me take you back. My grandfather bought this place in the late 60s, a little cabin, 2.5 acres of honest land, and the kind of old dock that creaks like it's telling stories. Summers here meant fishing, fireflies, and the smell of pine sap, so thick it'd follow you back into the city. When my marriage ended, I came home, fixed up the cabin, patched the roof, rewired the walls, rebuilt the dock plank by plank. It was quiet. It was mine. And then Veronica arrived. Picture this. Glass and steel mansion plopped down across the water, a white BMW always gleaming in the drive, and a woman who carries herself like she's doing the lake a favor just by existing. First week she moves in, she's waving at folks like a politician. Then suddenly, it's all complaints. My boat's too loud. My friend parked wrong. My dock, she says, is encroaching on the public shoreline. She even brings a surveyor out, their machines beeping for days, measuring and remeasuring, just looking for trouble. She doesn't come at me face to face at first. No, Veronica's smarter than that. Certified letters start showing up, the kind that make your stomach twist before you even open them. Her first claim? My dock's illegal, has been for 50 years. She's out a survey, a lawyer, a list of violations long enough to use as kindling. For a second, I almost doubted myself. But my grandfather was meticulous, so I did what he would have done. Dug through boxes in the basement until I found his original deed, his hand-drawn map, and, more importantly, the county engineer's stamp from 1967. Turns out, Grandpa played by the rules, maybe better than Veronica ever could. Here's a little free advice. If you're ever in a property fight, find those old records. The ones with real signatures. They're worth their weight in gold. You'd think the truth would stop her. But people like Veronica, they don't back off, they double down. She forms a lakefront committee, starts calling neighbors about environmental hazards and property values. I find out from Mrs. Patterson, sweet old widow down the way, that Veronica's already tried to get her bird feeders classified as wildlife harassment. You can't make this stuff up. The real low blow comes 2 weeks later. A letter from the county. Remove my dock in 30 days or face legal action. I look across the water. There's Veronica, wine glass in hand, that little smirk on her face. That's when I realized this wasn't about codes or fish habitats. This was about power. She saw my cabin, my old dock, as an eyesore, and she wanted me gone. Lucky for me, I've got family. My cousin Ruby's a paralegal with a sixth sense for legal BS. She arrives at Murphy's coffee shop with a briefcase full of files and a plan. Marcus, my buddy who builds houses, brings blueprints. Dolores, the retired librarian, has a notebook thicker than the county tax code. We strategize. Ruby files a countersuit for harassment. Marcus gets permits lined up for a dock renovation. One so by the book, it'll make the inspectors weep tears of joy. Here's the thing. When you play it straight, you build yourself a kind of legal armor. Permits, contractors, GPS surveys. Marcus even sets up a security system, cameras at every angle, just in case. He tells me, most folks never realize GPS apps on your phone can map a property line accurate to within 3 feet. Courts eat that up. That's the kind of friend you want on your side. Of course, it's never that simple. Veronica tries bribing the county inspector, offers him $5,000 to find violations and pull my permits. The guy tells me about it himself, still shaking his head. I report it to the state attorney. Next thing I know, Veronica's got a private investigator snooping around, asking about my finances, my divorce, even my work history. Small towns don't keep secrets. Word gets around fast. Her PI is about as subtle as a marching band at midnight. I won't lie. There are nights I lay awake, listening to the creak of the dock in the wind, wondering how much farther this will go. But then, I remember the little things. The neighbor who brings me coffee. The kids who wave from their paddleboards. The old man who asks if I'll help him fix his own dock. That's the community Veronica doesn't see. You know what else she doesn't count on? Karma. About the time she's ramping up the legal threats, her landscaper quits. Tells me she wanted him to plant trees to block my view, then asked him to park his truck across my drive every morning. The guy laughs, shakes his head, says she's crazier than my ex-wife, and that's saying something. Even her allies start to disappear. The attacks get pettier. Someone cuts the ropes on my dock in the middle of the night. Security footage shows it's her old landscaper. The sheriff's deputy bags the ropes as evidence. Over $1,000 in damages, felony territory. I document everything, just like Ruby taught me. Veronica, meanwhile, tries to whip up a concerned citizen's petition against me. The signatures? Mostly folks from her old law firm and her last state. Not even Lake residents. The local paper investigates. The reporter digs up Veronica's long history of frivolous lawsuits and unpaid taxes. She's been sanctioned in other states for filing bogus claims. Once tried to sue a neighbor over tree shadows. When the county commission meeting finally rolls around, the place is packed. Veronica shows up with posters, binders, a PowerPoint about environmental threats. She waves around her independent study, says my dock is hurting fish, causing erosion, and spreading algae. My turn comes. I pull out Grandpa's old documents, photos of my dock from the 1970s, the engineer's current report, and, just for good measure, the security footage of her former landscaper cutting my ropes. The room goes dead quiet. Then I add photos of her dock, 20 feet over the line, and evidence of fertilizer runoff, fueling, and algae bloom. The county inspector confirms my dock meets every code. Hers, not so much. Veronica's lawyer starts to sweat. The commissioners vote unanimously to approve my dock and order an investigation into her violations. 3 months later, she's gone, forced to sell the house to cover her debts and legal fees. The new neighbors move in, bring cookies, and ask if I have any advice about the lake. Their kids play on the shore, where Veronica used to stalk up and down with her phone, yelling at contractors. You know what sticks with me the most? The sense of peace. My property value jumps, sure, but more importantly, the whole community pulls together. People start helping each other again. We set up monthly potlucks. I start a little fun with my insurance settlement money, help kids learn to build docks, teach boat safety, sponsor summer camp trips. Folks pitch in. The sound of laughter replaces the tense silence that used to hover over the water. Here's what I learned. Bullies only win if you let them. Document everything, know your rights, and don't be afraid to stand your ground. In the end, patience beats entitlement. Karma always finds its way home. So, let me ask you, what would you do if someone tried to steal your family's legacy? Would you fight back or walk away? I'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment below. Trust me, sometimes the craziest tales come from the quietest lakes. And stick around, because next week, I'm sharing how a friend of mine stood up to an HOA that tried to fine him for flying the American flag. Let's just say that board learned a thing or two about federal law and about messing with the wrong veteran. If you've ever tangled with an HOA or a neighbor with too much time on their hands, you're in the right place. Pull up a chair. We're just getting started.